I turned 103 this year, and somewhere along the way, I stopped being afraid of doctors, reports, warnings, and all those careful voices that act like they can measure a human life with numbers on a page. I stopped letting other people tell me how much living I had left in me. And a strange thing is, I am still here, still breathing, still thinking, still watching the morning light fall across the table like it has nowhere else to be. People hear that and smile. Some of them laugh. Some of them laugh. Some of them lean forward like I am about to reveal a secret no one else knows. They want a formula, a rule, a perfect answer. But life never worked that way for me. It never followed a neat plan. It never asked permission from a doctor before giving me one more year. It never promised that doing everything right would save me. And it never proved that one mistake would destroy me either. When I was younger, I listened to every warning. Point if a doctor frowned, I felt fear immediately. If a test result changed, I carried it around in my chest all day. I followed advice the way frightened people do. Eat less of this, drink more of that, walk but not too much, rest but not too often, avoid stress, avoid sugar, avoid cold, avoid heat, avoid effort, avoid excitement, avoid sadness. After a while, I sat there thinking, if I avoid everything, what exactly am I saving? That was the question that changed me. Not all at once. Not dramatically, quietly, slowly. Like a door opening in a house I had lived in for years without noticing it. I began to understand that there is a difference between caring for your body and living in fear of it. That there is a difference between listening and obeying blindly. There's a difference between being careful and becoming so cautious that you stop living before life is actually over. Now listen to me clearly. I am not saying doctors are useless. I am not saying medicine does not matter. There were times it helped me, times I needed it, times I was grateful for every good decision and every skilled hand. But I am saying this. Times a report is not your soul. A diagnosis is not your whole identity. A number may describe something in your body, but it cannot fully explain the strength in your spirit. And people forget that. They look at age and see only decline. I look at age and see survival. I have been many women in one lifetime. A little girl with scraped knees and quick laughter. A young woman full of plans. A wife, a mother, a woman who knew hard work, a woman who knew grief, a woman who thought at least once that she could not possibly bear one more loss. And then somehow she did. That is what age really is. It is proof that you have survived versions of yourself that once thought they would never make it through. People ask me what kept me alive so long. They expect me to say olive oil, early bedtimes, morning walks, or some miracle tea made from leaves nobody can pronounce. I always disappoint them, because the truth is far more ordinary. But I stayed interested in life. That is one of the biggest secrets. I stayed interested in people. That is one of the biggest secrets. In people, in weather, in stories, in children, in flowers, in what was cooking on the stove, in what the sky looked like before rain, in what someone really meant when they said they were fine. Curiosity keeps something awake inside you. But the day you stop being interested, life starts growing quieter around you, door by door, light by light. Light also stopped practicing death before it arrived. Many people do that without realizing it. They become suspicious of joy, suspicious of food. They get suspicious of movement, suspicious of laughter, suspicious of every ache and every tired morning. They start speaking as if the end has already begun. 'Twan bad test, 'twan't 1 week me, 1 long night, and they turn it into a whole funeral in their minds. Fear loves that. Fear loves to tell stories before facts are ready. But most of life is not disaster. Most of life is simply change. Weather passing through, a difficult season, a body asking for tenderness, not panic. I have had pain, of course. I have had mornings where standing up felt like lifting a house. I have had days when my memory wandered and returned only when I stopped chasing it. I have had losses that hollowed out whole rooms inside me. I have buried people I loved. I have folded clothes that would never be worn again. I have sat in silence so deep it felt like another presence in the room. Grief is real. Loneliness is real. Aging is real. I do not romanticize any of it. But I learned something important. Pain is something you carry. It is not all that you are. When sorrow came, I let it sit with me. I cried when I needed to cry. I went quiet when I needed quiet. But I did not let sorrow become the only language I spoke. At some point, you have to wash your face. Open the window, put water on to boil. Fold a blanket, sweep the floor, call someone back. Life often returns in very small ways, not through grand speeches, not through miracles, through ordinary things, through chores, through sunlight, through soup, through someone saying, "Tell me that story again." Through soup, through someone saying, "Tell me that story again." That is another thing that helped me. I never let myself become useless in my own eyes. The world is very quick to make older people feel like they are finished, like they are decorations from another time. But purpose matters. It matters more than people know. So I kept my hands busy. I mended things. I watered plants. I remembered birthdays. I listened when someone needed to talk. I gave comfort where I could. I prayed for people by name. Never underestimate what it does to a person to feel needed. The body may grow tired, but the soul straightens itself when it knows it still matters. I also learned to make peace with my face. At some point, you must stop arguing with time. It is a fight you will lose every day. I do not look in the mirror and ask for my younger self back. She had her years. I have mine. Every line on my face belongs to something I survived. Every softness, every mark, every change carries a story. This is not failure. This is evidence. I stayed long enough to look like this. That is not something I am ashamed of. And let me tell you another truth. Anger will age you faster than the calendar ever could. So will bitterness. So will resentment. So will resentment. I have seen people become old in spirit long before their bodies had earned it. They held on to every wound, every insult, every disappointment, until their whole nature became hard. I could not live like that. There were things I never got answers for, things that never became fair, apologies that never arrived. But I let go of much more than I held on to, not because everyone deserved forgiveness, because I deserved peace. I did not make health my religion. That may surprise people. I respected my body, yes. I rested when I needed to. I took help when it truly helped. but I did not spend my days worshiping caution. I did not want fear to become my personality. I wanted room for delight too. A good meal shared with someone, fresh bread, hot tea, morning conversation, clean sheets, a little music in another room, a flower opening when no one was watching. Why should old age mean the end of pleasure? Why should delight belong only to the young? I never accepted that. To stay alive, truly alive, a person needs more than treatment. They need connection. They need purpose. They need someone to notice when they enter a room. Too many people are lonely now. Topen, too many people are lonely now, surrounded by noise but lonely. They do not sit together enough. They do not talk properly. They do not listen fully. They do not eat slowly with people they love. And then they wonder why their hearts feel tired. A heart needs company. A spirit needs warmth. A silation can drain a person long before illness does. That is why I kept saying yes to life in small ways. I let people in. I asked questions. I listened to younger people without acting like I knew everything. I told stories when someone wanted them. I stayed curious about the world even when it changed faster than I liked. Though you do not have to understand everything to stay part of it. You only need willingness to remain human, willingness to remain open. So no, I did not stop listening to doctors because I had become careless. I stopped listening to them as if they were the final authority over my spirit. I stopped letting fear sit at the head of my table. I stopped believing that being alive was the same thing as avoiding all risk, all joy, all unpredictability. I listened when wisdom was needed. I ignored what was only fear dressed in authority. And then I lived the days I had, not perfectly, not recklessly, honestly, because in the end nobody escapes mortality. Not the careful, not the reckless, not the healthy, not the worried. We all go when it is time. So the real question was never how to avoid death forever. The real question was how to stay fully alive until it came, how to keep warmth in the voice, how to keep light in the eyes, how to keep gratitude in the heart, how to keep saying, not yet, I still have something to love here, but net, I think is what I did, that I stayed in conversation with life. Even when life became hard, even when it took people from me, even when my body changed, even when fear knocked at the door with its long list of warnings, I did not let it move in. I kept a place at the table for hope instead, for humor, for memory, for tea, for sunlight, for one more morning. And here I am, 103 years old, still speaking for myself, still choosing what gets power over me, still here